Michelangelo, Vincent van Gogh, Pablo Picasso. These are some of history's most renowned artists, and their work has proven to stand the test of time. And they all suck compared to whoever designed the cover art for Monkey Island. I mean, look at this. All of the characters are holding swords. Meanwhile, the monkey is holding a banana. I'd like to see Leonardo the Stupid invent that shit. I don't have a big video game collection by any means, but I love getting physical copies of games. One, because a lot of the times it's a lot cheaper than getting it from a console's digital store, and two, I just love looking at the box art. Video game box art, although oftentimes overlooked, is a vital part of any gaming experience. I mean, it's the first thing you see before starting your game, whether you're popping in a physical disc or clicking the icon for your digital copy. It sets the tone for what you're about to play, and when the art for a game is uniquely designed or interesting to look at, it elevates a player's experience with a game, even if just by a small degree. There's no specific way of determining whether a game's box art is good or bad. Tastes are subjective, and box arts come in all sorts of flavors. Action-packed or serene. Realistic or artistic. Busy or minimalistic. Sometimes the cover is just the title of the game. Sometimes the cover doesn't have the title at all. And sometimes the cover is for the game Snow White and the Seven Clever Boys. Some box arts even have mistakes on them. Like on the cover for Mario Kart Double Dash, the L on Luigi's hat is clearly backwards. Or on the Wii port for Okami, you can still see the IGN logo faintly printed on there. Mistakes like those aren't exactly ideal to have on the cover for your game, but I would say that those lean more towards funny than bad. So while there's not necessarily a wrong way of doing video game box art apart from being completely misleading, there is a dogshit boring way. Box arts today tend to follow a few select trends, one of the main ones being, please back up, you are very close to the camera. Look, I actually really liked The Last of Us Part 2, but I was severely disappointed by the box art when I went to my local GameStop for the first time in years to pick up the game on release day. I do think that this captures the concepts of loss and revenge that the game ends up focusing on, but let's compare this to the cover for the first Last of Us. Holy shit, is this the most beautiful box art I've ever seen. Joel and Ellie are wading through a flooded city, looking back on the path they just walked. It perfectly captures the themes of both loss and companionship that the game so heavily revolves around. There's a huge sense of scale with the skyscrapers in the background, and the sunset almost gives off an ominous glow. I remember growing up, my parents wouldn't let me play any M-rated games, so instead of playing The Last of Us, I would just stare at my brother's copy of the game for what felt like hours, wondering what sort of journey these two people were on just based on the cover. What if for the cover for Part 2, Naughty Dog decided to show Ellie exploring Seattle alone on horseback? It would still capture Ellie's feeling of loneliness while at the same time being reminiscent of the first game's cover. Except this time you're wondering, where's Joel? This game is already so full of anger and despair. How cool would it have been for the cover to show something a little different? Another common trend amongst video game box arts is the scary man with gun cover. I have 6 words plus 14 more for you. Every Call of Duty game ever, except for the ones that fall into the previous category of please back up. Some games actually manage to pull it off, like the cover for Red Dead Redemption. I don't know what it is, but even though I feel like I should be mad at the trope here, I just can't be. This cowboy guy looks so cool. And then Doom 2016 does it, and my god, does it pale in comparison to what they did for Doom Eternal. Doomslayer is in the depths of hell, literally climbing on top of the enemies to kill them. This is badass, and it even harkens back to the original Doom's cover, which follows the same concept. Oh, look at me, I have a gun, better look out. Once again, Naughty Dog managed to make a beautiful game with Uncharted 4, and still gave it some generic ass box art. Like the cover for Talau Part 2, I think this one works fine in concept. In fact, it's beautifully composed and more than appropriately sets the tone for Nathan Drake's struggle to give up his life of adventure. But I definitely prefer the cover for Uncharted 2, where Nathan is still a scary man, but this time he's actually dropping his gun. Like, yeah, this is fine, but this really makes you feel like a man who's about to fall off of a derailed train dangling from a cliff. While we're talking about Uncharted 2, I also wanted to bring up the fact that I just learned that this is what the Japanese box art looks like. It is so cartoony and everyone's expressions are so all over the place. Sully's over here looking all, "Arr!" Meanwhile Drake is over here looking like, and then Chloe's over here like, And is this supposed to be Lazarevich? It looks like Soviet Thanos. Sounds like now is a good time to talk about regional differences in video game box art. Depending on the part of the world you live in, your box art might look different for the same game in a different region. And it's usually because some money man in a fancy suit said, Angry Kirby will definitely sell better in America. Sometimes when it comes to differences in box art, it's like, oh, okay, these are different, but both are respectable. Sometimes here in America, we've got way cooler art than everyone else. Emphasis on sometimes. For Heavy Rain, Japan gets this ominous cover of a man submerged in water. Europe's takes a different approach, but they still get this beautifully subtle cover of an origami piece sitting in a puddle. And in the US, all subtlety goes out the window as we make sure to get that scary man with gun on the cover. This is the cover for Ico. Everywhere except the US. Regional differences in box art is fine. In fact, it can actually be a lot of fun when they're all unique but still well designed. Like, I appreciate Japan's minimalist approach to Final Fantasy XIII. But I do like that in America we get the hot main character on there too. But it is such a punch in the gut when it seems like the world gets this really cool box art. Except for you. At the end of the day, the gameplay, the story, the real meat and bones of the game will be the most important part. But people would look terrifying without their skin, just as video games wouldn't be the same without their box art. While physical media is slowly starting to die, and it might not seem as important to have good box art for your game when people can just press a button to start playing half the time, that art is still integral. A well-made box art can get you excited for what you're about to play. It sets the tone for the adventure you're about to embark on. Are you about to set off on an epic journey with awesome battles? Or are you gonna shit your pants? I remember any time I went out with my mom to run errands and I got to pick up a game along the way, I would spend the entire car ride home just staring at the cover, waiting for my chance to pop it in and start playing. In a lot of ways, just looking at the box art for a game is an adventure in itself, especially if it's the cover for Bust-A-Move 2. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and while I'm wrapping this up, here's a few of my favorite video game box arts of all time, and be sure to tell me about some of your favorites in the comments below. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for more content from yours truly. My last video was about Flash games. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. And as always, I hope you have an incredible rest of your life, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.